Welcome to BizTech's APAC Ambassador Conversation Series. Today, our conversation is with His Excellency Takahashi Katsuhiko, Ambassador of Japan to Malaysia. Now, Your Excellency, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, Your Excellency, you started your tenure as Japanese Ambassador to Malaysia just 5 months ago, but you've just recently got your credentials. Could you perhaps start by outlining your key objectives and goals?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the main key objectives for me is to celebrate 40 years anniversary of Look-East policy, which is this year. I'm happy to be in Malaysia in this important year. And I really want to make this as an opportunity to review what Japan and Malaysia have done in the past 40 years under Look-East policy. And also, we really want to spend my time here to identify what we can do more for Malaysia as a nation, and also how we can build a better bilateral relation between the two countries. Actually, after coming here and after mingling with Malaysian people, I already find out that our relation is quite good. But I will continue looking for an opportunity and occasions to enhance further the bilateral relation between the two countries. So this is my key objectives.
Now, Your Excellency, I'm going to ask you a little bit more details on some of the key points that you talked about. But let's start by you giving us an overview of what the Japanese economy looks like today. Mm-hmm. What are the key sectors and what are the key engines of growth moving forward?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's also the same in Malaysia, but there was a very strong negative impact on economy because of COVID-19 in the past 2 or 3 years. But the Japanese economy started to recover from last year, 2021, and we are expecting 2.6% of GDP growth last year. This year, the Japanese government tried to achieve a self-sufficient economic growth led by private sector, as well as creating a virtuous cycle of growth and distribution by implementing the economic policy in a fast, timely, and efficient manner. If we can do that, we will be able to achieve a little bit better economic growth this year. And for the time being, our projection for this year will be 3.2%, a little bit better than the last year. But of course, we start to see some uncertainty, in particular, Russian invasion against Ukraine. This definitely have a negative impact on our effort for the economic recovery in Japan. We already see a lot of pressures on the commodity market, and also trade channel has been disrupted. So let's see how this have an impact on the Japanese economy and also the Malaysian economy. At the same time, away from those challenges, we're already facing the long-term challenges, like how to achieve carbon neutral, new area like digitalization, and we also start to see some challenges in the international order. Also, COVID-19 pandemic really makes us aware of the merit of work from home. So Tokyo is famous that a lot of people commute to Tokyo and work together. But after the COVID, people start to be aware, okay, we can work from at home, or rather we can stay away from Tokyo, be in the rural place, having happy life and work. So all those modifications in our social behavior also becoming a challenge. So we try to reflect them into our new economy. So I think we need a more structural reform under the post-COVID era. And we really are looking forward to demonstrate what we can do, because Japan is an aging society, very advanced than the other countries. So I think what we're going to do from now on can provide a good example to the other country who is going to face a similar problem in the future.
Your Excellency, perhaps then we can zoom in on the trade relationship and the balance of trade with Malaysia. What does the bilateral trade picture look like?
We have been the top partner in terms of trade and investment with Malaysia. And now we are the fourth trade partner with Malaysia, and we are the third in investment partner with Malaysia. Now we have around 1,500 Japanese companies operating in Malaysia, mainly on the electrical and electronic area, and also creating 340,000 employment in the manufacturing sector alone. So we are having a very strong economic relation between Japan and Malaysia. I really want to mention on this occasion, even during the pandemic period, our investment to Malaysia didn't decrease. So in the calendar year 2021, the amount of investment from Japan increased 6.2 billion ringgit Malaysian. So now the accumulation of the total investment to Malaysia is 82.7 billion ringgit. So this really demonstrates that we continue to be the partner with Malaysia even during the pandemic, and we are really looking forward to see more investment and activities of Japanese business come into. Joining to the RCEP by Malaysia is a good thing, and we are also waiting for the ratification of CTPPP by Malaysia. This will further liberalize the trade of goods and services, and also it will encourage further liberalization and facilitation of investment, which I definitely believe that contribute to the further development of trade and investment relation between Japan and Malaysia.
Ambassador Takahashi, what can Malaysia do to attract more Japanese investors to invest money in Malaysia, whether it's existing investors or new investors? One of the opportunities that many have talked about is the relocation of supply chains as a result of COVID, and also as a result of companies moving out of China. Could you enlighten us on what we have to do to really bring that investment into Malaysia?
As far as new investment is concerned, I understand Malaysia is still in a very good position because you are rich in natural resources, you have a better infrastructure in comparison with other countries in the region. And of course, having a lot of English-speaking population is one of the merits. And you have a good living standard with security, and also lack of lot of natural disaster. This has been attracting a lot of Japanese companies, and I think those characteristics continue to be valid. So I'm not worried about the new investment, but I think the other part is how you take care of the existing Japanese companies and how you are going to encourage them to invest. One of the challenges Japanese companies are facing is shortage of labor. They are having good businesses, but they cannot find enough labor forces if they want to expand their businesses in Malaysia. Of course, one way is to introduce foreign labor, and another thing is to train more Malaysians for the skilled labor. But they both, of course, take some time. There's no quick fix. So, we keep on addressing those problems to the Malaysian government so that at least they can do something, try to improve this labor shortage in the Malaysian labor market. Also, process of approval of investment continue to be relatively slow here in Malaysia. And also, what is special for Malaysia is company need to get an approval both from state and the federal government. This is also taking some time to get an approval. So this is really intimidates some companies to go for the reinvestment. Also, we're asking for the incentive for the reinvestment of existing Japanese company here. So all those things are what we always say to the Malaysian government to accommodate our concern. And I hope those concerns will be duly taken care of by the Malaysian government. That's what I hope.
And those are interesting points, Ambassador Takahashi, which have also been mentioned by other foreign investors and other ambassadors that we've spoken to before. Do you think, however, that one of the things that potentially Malaysia could attract from Japan is also technology investments in smaller companies, perhaps relocating to Malaysia or setting up their ASEAN headquarters or first touch point in Malaysia?
I think it's a good idea. I think logistically speaking, Malaysia is located in the very center of ASEAN region. Therefore, you have an advantage to be the center of activity when Japanese companies think about where they should do business in ASEAN, from which country in ASEAN. We already start to see some smaller companies start to come into Malaysia. So if they become successful in doing business in Malaysia, I think it will draw attention to other SMEs in Japan. Therefore, I think we need some success stories, and then we will promote those information to more wider audience in Japan, and they may be interested in coming to Malaysia. So I think Malaysia now opening up relatively faster than the other ASEAN countries to do business. Therefore, I think this type of policy will encourage the attention of Japanese business people to do business with Malaysia. And I really wish to encourage them to come to see the real situation here.
Now, Ambassador Takahashi, I want to move on to diplomatic relations with our two countries. And it's close. This year is the 65th anniversary of the establishment of Japan-Malaysia diplomatic relations, as well as, as you mentioned earlier, the 40th anniversary of the Look East policy. Give us an overview of the current state of Japanese-Malaysian diplomatic relations, especially in the light of former President Abe's recent visit to Malaysia.
Yeah, I think the 40 years work between Japan and Malaysia really give Japan a very special position in Malaysian society. Having a lot of Malaysians who experienced their study and training in Japan really worked as a strong asset of the bilateral relations. If you have a look at the government sector, 13 secretary generals of the ministries out of 27 have studied or trained in Japan. So this factor alone demonstrates how Japan provided a training to the important people, invested the people to become the higher ranking in the future. I'm really happy to have those people in the each ministries because it's quite easy for me to talk to. Also, I think having a lot of Malaysians who speak Japanese attracted the Japanese company to do business. That's the reason why we have around 1,500 Japanese companies here. The number of companies is much bigger in comparison with the size of population of Malaysia among the ASEAN countries. So this is also the achievement of Look East policy. And this type of good relation really motivates us to do more for the Malaysians. Now we are talking about opening the first Japanese university in Malaysia. That is at Tsukuba University. This is the national university, very famous, and they have several Nobel Prize laureates. So it's one of the high-end universities. We are discussing with Malaysian government to open the branch of Tsukuba University in Malaysia. So now we will be able to provide Japanese-style education to Malaysian people in Malaysia. So this is one of the ways to evolve the Look East policy. And this is one way for us to go to strengthen this policy further. Also, look-east policy started to provide Japan's expertise to Malaysian people. Malaysia already developed quite well when it comes to the manufacturing. Therefore, I don't think we have a lot to offer at this moment. But there are a lot of new areas where we'll be able to cooperate. Of course, high-tech industry is one area. But away from manufacturing, topics like disaster risk reduction, or how we're going to address the aging society, all those things can be one of the topics which Japan and Malaysia study together, and we can provide expertise to Malaysians to overcome your difficulty you'll be facing in the future. So this is the way I want to develop the bilateral relation between Japan and Malaysia from now on.
And Ambassador Takahashi, that sounds very interesting because that's not traditionally what we would think about in terms of working with Japan as a partner. Are there any special activities and events planned this year to commemorate the 40th anniversary of look-east policy?
Yes, celebration of look-east policy have to be done by Malaysian side. Actually, look-east policy is a Malaysian policy, not a Japanese one. Therefore, we are in close collaboration with MITI because MITI is a responsible ministry in Malaysian government on look-east policy. Therefore, there would be a lot of events under the supervision of MITI, and other ministry will be involved. But of course, Japanese embassy tried to set up some opportunity to commemorate this 40 years anniversary, not necessarily from the trade and investment angle, but from a cultural point of view and others. All those events are now process in making. But for example, there will be a Bon Odori Festival. This is a very famous annual festival in Penang. And we are going to have it under the 40 years anniversary. And also in Kelantan Kota Baru, they are also going to organize Japan Festival. So we want to name it under the anniversary of 40 years of look-east policy. Therefore, those events will be coming, and we are thinking of advertising all those events through Japanese embassy website, Facebook, and I also have a Twitter account. So my Twitter account is also the venue for us to introduce the events to come.
And I will check out your Twitter account, Your Excellency,
yes,
as well.
Please do so.
Now, I want to move on to defense cooperation because in recent years, Malaysia and Japan have collaborated on more and more issues. Could you highlight the state of our defense cooperation between our two countries?
Yes, we do not have so-called defense cooperation in a way a lot of Malaysians will imagine. But the security is an issue of common concern. And having a look at the location of Malaysia, very important geographical location connecting the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. So it's quite natural that Malaysia needs to play a role on the security issues. And Japan is really ready to cooperate how Malaysia continue to play an important role in terms of security. Therefore, Japan keep on saying the concept of free and open Indo-Pacific. This is just rather reiteration of basic value, which we need to take care of. That is the safety of navigation, importance of free trade, importance of rule of law. And our concept is being discussed with ASEAN leaders. And we already confirmed that the ASEAN idea on Indo-Pacific, called ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific, AOIP, would play the central role among the ASEAN region to achieve what you want to achieve. So this AOIP contains maritime cooperation, connectivity, sustainable development goals, and economy. So we will continue from this angle how you are going to create safe and stable Indo-Pacific. From this point of view, this is not necessarily the defense cooperation, but Japan has been providing some assistance, economic assistance, to Malaysia Maritime Enforcement Agency, together with the Japanese Coast Guard. So provision of training, and also we provide the patrolship so that the Coast Guard can enhance the capacity to patrol and maintain the safety of navigation in this region. So maybe I'm not responding directly to the defense cooperation, but this is the way we cooperate on the security concern of Malaysia, and we will continue addressing the concern which Malaysian government and people have in this area.
Thank you for that, Ambassador Takahashi, because one of the key things that you've also done is now as we get closer, I think Japanese companies have started to offer equipment, defense equipment for the first time to help Malaysia in upgrading its defensive capabilities, especially in the provision of radars.
Yes, there is a discussion indeed, and we also relaxed our regulations. So if equipment can be used purely for the defense purposes, we were able to discuss with interested countries for the provision of those equipments. And we really wish to continue discussion on this issue with Malaysian government. Anyway, we really care about how to defend ourselves. And if this approach is very much welcomed by Malaysia, I think Japan is a good partner to talk. And I really want to continue the dialogue on this issue.
Ambassador Takahashi, that's been fascinating. But I now want to shift the conversation, Your Excellency, to you. Now, prior to arriving in Malaysia, you were the Director General of Middle Eastern and African Affairs in the Foreign Ministry, and you are also the Ambassador and Special Representative for Afghanistan and Pakistan. Could you share with us your career so far and perhaps highlight some key things that have impacted you as an individual, as a diplomat as well?
Yes, thank you very much for mentioning my background. And actually, I am an Arab specialist in the Japanese Foreign Ministry. And I studied Arabic in Egypt a long time ago. As a result of this, I spent more than 10 years in Arab countries and 6 years in New York, and the rest in Japan, but mainly in charge of Middle Eastern affairs. I think I have to mention this. My first posting in a non-Arab country was New York. I was happy to be in New York, very exciting city, but it was 2001. So
a long time ago, 20 years ago.
I encountered the September 11th. Then in the United Nations, there was a discussion toward the Afghan war, followed by Iraqi war. I involved myself after the Iraqi war for the reconstruction of Iraq, both from Kuwait and Iraq, and followed the process from time to time. So I can say since 2001, my career has been closely associated with the aftermath of September 11th. And my last position in Tokyo was the Director General of Middle East and the Special Representative for Afghanistan and Pakistan. And I witnessed the fall of Kabul under the Taliban hand after the withdrawal of the US forces. So I witnessed the start of Afghan war initiated by September 11th and aftermath of what we have done in the 20 years. So this is really, how can I say, the experience I had. And I still don't know how we should evaluate our 20 years effort in Afghanistan and for the stability in the Middle East. But maybe I'm going to set aside the evaluation for the another opportunity, maybe after 10 years or 20 years. So this is the background of my career and the event I wanted to mention on this occasion.
Now, Ambassador, that you've been in Malaysia for 5 months. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What are your hobbies and your interests?
Yeah, what is good for me is I play golf.
Oh, so Malaysia is a great place to be then.
Yes, I'm surprised that all the Malaysians start to talk about businesses, but the second topic is always golf. Therefore, I'm really happy to be here as an ambassador and as a golfer. My wife also plays golf, so we already start to enjoy golfing wherever chances are available. So this is a good thing. And also the food. Food in Malaysia is very tasty. And I really enjoy variety of food, even durian. I tweeted myself eating durian on my Twitter, and it attracted a lot of reactions. But as I eat it with forks, a lot of people criticize me for having it with fork. So next time I need to have it by hand. So please continue following my Twitter. I may try to have durian by my hand in the very near future.
Your Excellency, this has been an excellent conversation. But before we leave, any final thoughts you would like to leave us with before we end this conversation?
Yes, thank you very much. I want to mention one thing, that is a partnership between Japan and Malaysia on businesses. And again, I want to say Malaysia is now well developed. Therefore, we don't want to see Malaysia-Japan relation as a recipient and donor. Rather, we are the partners to do business together. Also, Malaysia have a lot of things to offer to Japanese company. For example, know-how on Islamic banking is one thing. And your knowledge on the halal recognition is another thing, which Japan alone cannot do, but with the help of Malaysian friends, we can do. So if we learn something from Malaysia on those issues and go to do the business with Middle Eastern country, that is a good thing. So I really want to encourage this type of aspect to attract more attention from the Japanese company to do business with Malaysian companies. And another thing is Malaysia is a country with diversity. And this diversity really attracted a lot of Japanese company and tourists. I really want to care this diversity, and I really hope Malaysia continue to offer us as a country with diversity and welcome all the people from all over the world. That's what I wanted to say in closing.
Ambassador Takahashi, thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this conversation.
I'm Brian Fernandez, and I've been speaking to His Excellency Takahashi Katsuhiko, the Ambassador of Japan to Malaysia, on BizTech's APAC Ambassador Conversation series. This video and podcast will be on our social media platforms as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thank you very much for tuning in.